Well, hello. This is Dr. LaWanda N. Evans, and welcome to another segment of The Truth About Your Relationship. Today's topic is when infidelity hits your relationship. I'm going to talk to you all today about infidelity. We're going to talk about, of course, infidelity and cheating is all the same, but I'm going to talk to you all a little bit about this because I think this is a very important topic that we all are sometimes afraid to talk about with our significant others. Many husbands and wives are afraid to talk about this, but it's very important to be able to have a dialogue about infidelity. There are many relationships that may have been affected by infidelity, and you may not have ever talked about it. You may not have ever told anybody about it. But I feel that it's very important to be able to talk about infidelity and be able to talk about any and everything as it relates to your relationship. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. So as I stated, I'm Dr. LaWanda N. Evans. I'm a health and relationship expert and a licensed professional counselor here in the state of Texas. And so today's segment of The Truth About Your Relationship is when infidelity hits your relationship. So you may be asking yourself, what is infidelity? What does that really mean? You know, everybody has a different definition of infidelity. Everybody has a different definition of cheating. It really depends on the person. My definition of infidelity is when one or both partners have an emotional or physical relationship or connection with someone other than their mate. You may have a different definition based on everybody's experiences from growing up, what you saw in relationships growing up. Also, based on your past relationship experiences, you may have a different definition when it comes to infidelity. And I'm going to use the word infidelity, but infidelity, cheating, they all basically means the same thing. So what are some ways that we can identify or really determine when infidelity is actually going to happen? And I always like to tell people there is no way. For me, infidelity is a choice. People choose to cheat. Cheating is a choice, whether you are the cheater or you're the one doing the cheating, or if you're the one who's having an emotional connection with someone, having a physical connection with someone. It all boils down to a personal choice. Yes, there are issues and challenges that go on in a person's life that may lead to some of these behaviors. But when it's all said and done, everybody has the ability to say no. Everybody has the ability to walk away. Everybody has the ability to not subject themselves to different types of environments or around different types of people, or subject themselves to communicating with different people. Everybody has the ability to basically create and set up boundaries that would actually help so that infidelity would not hit your relationship or hit their relationship. So infidelity occurs when one or both partners are not getting their emotional and or physical needs met. Even though infidelity is a choice, there's an open door that occurs in a relationship when one or both partners are not getting their emotional and physical needs met. Not to say that this is the same for every relationship, because every relationship is different. Every person is different. But I'm just giving you some things that can possibly open the door. Not to say that it's actually going to happen, because it may and it may not. You may be in a relationship where you and your partner can talk about any and everything, and you have boundaries that are actually set up. But there are some relationships where both or one person is not getting their needs met. And when a person doesn't get his or her emotional and physical needs met in a relationship, that opens the door. It may not open the door all the way, but it actually puts a crack there, especially when they go for a long period of time not getting their needs met. Infidelity can also occur in a relationship when there is an unexpressed and unmet need that has not been shared in the relationship. So it's very, very important to be able to talk about what your needs are, to be able to talk about, different things that you would need in the relationship, and then being able to talk about why you need these things and why these things are so important to you. So when there is an unexpressed or unmet need that's not being met in a relationship, it is a possibility that that can open the door for infidelity as well. Another way that a door can open for infidelity is when an expressed need is been expressed. Like, for example, if one or both persons say, quality time is important to me, and I really would love it if we can spend more time together. If a person continuously, repeatedly expresses that this is a need, and that need goes unmet or ignored, that can open the door for infidelity as well. Even though, and I said this in the beginning, that infidelity is a choice, there are things that happens in relationships that actually opens the door for a person to either choose to seek somebody else or choose to draw closer to their mate and be able to have a conversation and talk to each other about what those needs are, and then being willing to meet those needs in the relationship. And then infidelity can also occur if a person is trying to fill a sexual void that he or she thought the relationship would fulfill. That can open the door for infidelity. For example, if a person is struggling sexually before they got married with any type of sexual issues, whether it's porn, whether it's sexual trauma, whether it's any type of sexual issues that they dealt with prior to getting into the relationship, and that person thought that maybe when I get married, these urges would go away or this desire would go away, but then they find themselves trying to meet that need and fulfill that need in other ways instead of looking to their mate to fulfill their needs or looking to their spouse to fulfill that need. They begin to look outside. And that's because they're trying to fulfill a sexual void or a sexual need that was not fulfilled prior to getting into the relationship or even prior to getting married. And that can lead to other issues and challenges. That's why it is very important to have a conversation with each other when it comes to your sexual history, your past relationship, and your family history, especially as it relates to a relationship. The reason why I say this is because people go into relationships with the sexual history, with the past relationship history, with family history, and based on their experiences and based on their exposures, their perception about sex and about relationships and about intimacy and about getting close to their mate is formed. And so many a times people don't talk about these things. So many times people have these unrealistic expectations because of what they've been exposed to. And when they have an expectation, sometimes that expectation can develop them having a need that they want to fulfill in them. And so if they have been fulfilling this need in so many ways prior to getting married, in such a way where they've been fulfilling themselves, or they're maybe going to strip clubs or doing porn or things of that nature to fulfill that need. And then once they get married and they don't get that same type of fulfillment, there's a possibility that infidelity can hit the relationship because they may step out in order to get that need fulfilled that they thought that the relationship would fulfill. So that's why it's important to talk about these past issues. That's why it's important to have conversations. If you're dating someone exclusively and with the intent to be engaged or the intent to be married, it's important to have these conversations. It's important to talk to each other about what your history has been and to help both of you to be able to understand what your perception is as it relates to a relationship. What is your perception as it relates to infidelity? And then if you're already married, and let's say you're dealing with some of this in your marriage, it's still important for you to have a conversation. It's important for you to be able to talk to your mate about what's going on with you and what this really means to you, which I'm going to talk about this a little bit later in some questions that you can begin to talk to each other about. And then infidelity is very important that we understand that everyone has been exposed to different thoughts, opinions, and ideas about relationships. And it's very important to be able to share with each other what your thoughts are, what your opinions are. Have you even sat down and talked about what is infidelity to you? What is your definition of infidelity? You have to decide what constitutes infidelity in your relationship. It's very important to sit down and have a conversation with your mate about what is infidelity to you. Does infidelity mean talking on the phone to the opposite sex? Does that mean that the person is cheating? You know, being in online communities with the opposite sex that deals with sexual issues and relationship issues, is that considered infidelity? It's important for you to talk about what infidelity looks like, what it means, being able to describe and provide examples to help your mate understand your perception and what your perspective is as it relates to infidelity. See, many times people go into relationships and they don't have these conversations. It's very important to be able to have the conversation. Doesn't mean that it's going to happen. It just means we're having an open dialogue about what infidelity means to you and what infidelity means to me, so that we can have a clear understanding about the boundaries that we need to set in our relationship. And we need to have a clear understanding about what this means. So should it come up, you already know how your mate feels when it comes to infidelity. So that's why it's important to have the conversations. So let me give you some questions that you can ask each other, whether you're married or whether you're in a dating relationship. It's important to be able to talk to your mate, to sit down and have a conversation about describing what cheating and infidelity means to you. Describe what it looks like. You want to talk about whether or not talking to the opposite sex is considered cheating. Some people feel as if that's not cheating. But a person who has been hurt multiple times in a relationship, or a person who has been cheated on in a relationship, they may think that, or they may feel that talking to the opposite sex without them being in your presence, they may consider that as cheating. It's very important to get a sound definition of what cheating is in your relationship. What does that really mean? You also want to talk to each other about whether or not sexting is considered cheating. If your mate is sexting somebody else of the opposite sex, or for some situations the same sex, you want to be able to talk about if that is considered cheating. Is texting considered cheating? Being able to have these conversations and talk to each other about this. Do you consider texting someone of the opposite sex or texting somebody of the same sex? Do you consider that cheating? Especially in the context of a relationship. You also want to talk to each other about whether or not joining a secretive online community, is that considered cheating? Is porn considered cheating? Is having a fetish and getting that need met considered cheating? Is being a part of a sexual community of those of the opposite sex or the same sex, is that considered cheating? It's important to be able to have these open dialogues, to have these open conversations, so that you can get a clear understanding about where your mate is and about where you are as it relates to infidelity in your relationship. And then you also want to talk about is whether or not being on dating apps is cheating. Is going to the strip clubs cheating? See, you can't say that, oh, I'm okay with this, but you don't ever talk to your mate about it. You may be okay with these things, but your mate may not be okay with these things. And don't be afraid to have the conversations, because you may feel that the person may leave the relationship if you talk about this, or if you have a different perception about cheating or about what infidelity is. Just because you have different views doesn't mean that you have to walk away from the relationship. What it means is you have to get a clear understanding about what it means for your relationship, and then you all have to be able to talk to each other about the boundaries that you're actually going to set in your relationship. So now let's talk about, if you have already experienced infidelity in your relationship, what should you do? One of the things I would say you should not do, let's talk about what you should not do. Don't sweep it under the rug. That's the first thing you should not do. Don't take responsibility for your mate's cheating, and don't allow your mate to make you feel like it's your fault. Whenever infidelity occurs in a relationship, it is not the hurt person's fault that the other person made a choice to cheat. So you have to keep that in mind. I don't care what they say. I don't care what they do. It is not your fault if your mate cheats on you. No, it's not. So don't let your mate make you feel like it's your fault if he or she cheats on you. No, it is not. And then don't take responsibility for your mate's cheating. It is not your role to take responsibility for what your mate does. Your mate is a grown man or a grown woman. They have the ability to make whatever the decision they want to make. So it is not your role to take responsibility for their cheating. It is not. So now, with that being said, I got that out of the way. If infidelity has hit your relationship, one of the things you want to do is you want to seek counseling. You cannot process being cheated on by yourself. You cannot process and deal with the stream of emotions that comes with this. You cannot do this by yourself. The second thing you want to do, you want to talk about it. You want to talk about it and express your true feelings, your honest feelings. You want to express how you really feel, not keep it bogged down in a bottle and then at some point you end up exploding, but you want to be upfront and honest about how you feel as it relates to infidelity, especially if you've been cheated on or if it's going on in your relationship. Be upfront and honest about how you're feeling. Let your mate know, I'm hurt, I'm mad, I'm pissed off, I'm ticked off. Be upfront and honest about how you feel about being cheated on. You want to be very open and very honest. And you may not be able to do this at home with your mate. That's why I say the first thing you want to do is seek counseling. There's some very, very high qualified counselors in the area or in your city or state where you live who can really help you deal with infidelity. So you don't have to do this by yourself, but you need to talk about this. If it's something that has happened that you've never talked about, you need to talk about it. Because if you don't talk about it, it's going to eat up you. It's going to eat your insides up. It's going to really cause you to begin to feel down and to feel low and to make you begin to think that it was your fault. No, you need to talk about it. If you've been cheated on, you need to talk about if infidelity has hit your relationship or if it's going on in your relationship now. You have to find a safe place where you can talk. And most of the time, talking to friends and family is not the safest place. Because one of the things that I can tell you, when you go to a family member or you go to your close friends to talk about it, they have already formed an opinion about the relationship. And should you choose to stay, if they are not mature enough to understand your decision, they are not going to be on board with you. So just be very cautious about who you share the information with as it relates to infidelity. Now, you do have those friends and family members who are very mature, and so they can handle it. And they're like, okay, they're very neutral. They listen to you. They support you. And whatever decision you decide to make, they're there with you. There's nothing wrong with talking to them. But it's the other ones you don't want to talk to when you already know that you have already been judged and the relationship has been judged. You want to shy away from giving your information, sharing your business with them. And then if you choose to stay, you have to decide if you're going to choose to forgive. And just know, if you decide to stay, that forgiveness is a process. And it may take some time, it may take some days, it may take some weeks, it may take some months, and it may take some years for you to forgive. But just know, if you choose to stay, forgiveness has to be part of the process. And then you also want to understand that there's no timeline on forgiveness. So give yourself whatever time you need to forgive your mate for what has occurred in the relationship. And then if you are the person who has been doing the cheating or who has done the cheating, give your mate time to process all of this. Don't rush them, and don't say things like, oh, you should be over that by now. No, they should. You cheated. So don't say to your mate, you should be over this. Oh, you should get over this. Oh, this happened 10 years ago, or this happened 5 years ago. So what when it happened? It happened. And so because you are the one who cheated, you have to give them an opportunity to process and to deal with the emotions that comes with it. Did you not know that as a cheater, every time you walk in the house, your mate don't see you the same? So to say to them, get over it, or you should be done with this, is disrespectful, and it's even more hurtful to the relationship. So I just want to throw that in to the person who may have been cheated, been the cheater, or who is currently cheating. Don't say to your mate to just get over and deal with it. No. Give them whatever time that he or she needs to deal with the issues, the emotions, and everything that comes with being cheated on. And then if you're married, create a plan and choose to put your marriage first if you choose to stay. If you choose to go, okay, that's fine. But if you choose to stay in the relationship after being cheated on and after there's been infidelity, you have to create a plan, you have to create boundaries, and you have to put your relationship, your marriage first. Then you want to identify ways to spend quality time together. And then get to a place where you're able to communicate with each other about everything. You want to get to a place in your relationship where you can communicate with each other about everything. If you're having, different types of feelings and emotions about somebody, let your mate know. And hopefully your mate is mature enough to not take it personal, but take it from a perspective, okay, this is going on in our relationship. We need to seek some help. Let's talk about this. What's going on in our relationship where these feelings are coming up? Let's talk about why you're having these feelings. Let's talk about, why you're having these emotions and why are you drawn to this person. Get help when these feelings come up. See, what you don't want to do is have feelings and thoughts about another person and then don't deal with those things, and then those things begin to manifest. No, talk about it. Let your mate know when you're having these different types of feelings or connections for someone. Be able to share with them what's going on with you. That's why it's so important to be able to communicate about everything. Just because you let your mate know, hey, these are the feelings that I'm having, doesn't mean that you're going to act on it. But this is a sign of respect that I love you enough to let you know, hey, I'm having this type of attraction towards this particular person and we need some help, or I need some help. So can you walk with me as I deal with this and as I go through this? So don't take it as if, oh, she wants to be with somebody else or he wants to be with somebody else. No, they're letting you know that this is what's going on the inside of me. They're basically crying out for help. And what that means is either seek help together or seek help individually. But do not negate the fact that you need to talk about things and you need to communicate with each other about everything. Other things that you can do if infidelity has already hit your relationship. Be willing to meet your spouse's needs. However, don't meet their needs at the expense of devaluing yourself or making you feel worthless, taken for granted, or treated like a tool. So there's a way where you can meet your spouse's needs, and that comes with communication, being able to identify what those needs are. But if meeting those needs is at the expense of making you feel devalued, worthless, taken for granted, or treated like a tool, or even treated indifferent, then you and your mate have to talk about why you feel this way and talk about your feelings surrounding what it is that he or she wants you to do. And then you want to be willing to express your needs and talk to each other about why those needs are so important. You have a specific need in your relationship. Everybody has needs in their relationship. So if you're having a specific need in your relationship, talk to your mate about this. Hey, I would really like it if X, Y, and Z. And then talk about why having that need met is so important to you. See, many times infidelity walks into his relationships because people are not expressing what their needs are. They're not sitting down and talking to each other about what those needs are. And so therefore they're stepping out to getting that need met when all you got to do is talk to your spouse, talk to your mate, let them know, hey, this is important to me. And if your mate loves you as they say that they do, then they're going to either meet that need, or you are going to have a conversation about ways that they can meet that need. And it may be a slow process, but be open to it. Be open to meeting your mate's needs. Be open to what he or she likes and what he or she wants. Be open to hearing and listening to it. Not to say that you're going to automatically do it. No, it's probably going to take some time. But be open. Don't dismiss a need that your mate had and then get upset when you find out they may have been talking to somebody else. Even though infidelity is a choice, and I said this in the beginning, we still have to do things in the relationship to keep the relationship going. And one of the most important things is taking your mate's needs into consideration. Don't dismiss what your mate is trying to express to you that he or she needs. If you choose to leave the relationship after infidelity, be open and honest. Make your preparations to leave, but please do not use leaving as a weapon to get what you want, or to get back at your mate, or to hurt him or her because you are hurt. Many times people use I'm leaving as a way to get back at them, or as a way to control the situation, or as a way to hurt the other person. Just be upfront and honest. If you're going to leave, leave. Don't just sit around and say, well, I'm probably going to leave, but I'm going to stay in this house, or I'm going to stay here. I just want to see what's going to happen. No, if you want to leave, go ahead and leave. Don't try to use leaving as a way to manipulate your mate or to hurt him or her. Don't do that, because that doesn't help the relationship. And if you decide to leave, leave. There's nothing wrong with that. It's your choice. But don't use it to control the situation. Don't use it to control him or to control her. Do what you do and pack your bags if you decide to leave. But if you choose to stay, just know that there is a process that comes with it should you decide to stay. So staying and leaving is a choice. The choice is yours, but at the same time, really be upfront and honest. And then another thing I want to say is, don't make decisions when you are hurting. When infidelity hits your relationship, you have all types of emotions. You don't know if you're coming or going. You're crying one minute. You're not crying the next minute. 1 minute you're happy. Then the next minute you're not happy. 1 minute you're thinking about how dare he or how dare her. Then the next minute you're like, oh, I love them. So you're up and down. You really don't know what you want to do. So when you find out about the infidelity, don't make any decisions. Give yourself time to process and deal with the emotions that comes with it. Get yourself a counselor. Sit down and talk to someone who can hear you out to really help you. Because when you're dealing with infidelity, especially if you're married, when you're dealing with infidelity, one day you want to leave and the next day you want to stay. And even if you're not married, one day you want to leave and one day you want to stay. You don't know. So you need somebody to help you to walk through this so that you won't make a decision based on your emotions, but you're making the decision based on, okay, is this going to be in the best interest of me and the relationship? Is this something that I really want to do? Don't drag it out and don't make a decision when you're hurting. Other things that you can do. Give yourself and each other time to grieve and to deal with the emotions. As I stated earlier, don't say to your mate, you should be over this or get over this or you should be done dealing with this by now. No. Give yourself and each other time to grieve and to deal with the emotions when infidelity has hit your relationship. And then other things you can do. If you choose to stay together, you want to work together to rebuild the relationship. And what that looks like is maybe going to counseling, going to workshops, seminars, conferences, praying together, going to church together. I already said getting counseling together. But you want to do things that are going to help you rebuild the relationship. You want to get back into dating each other. You want to basically start a brand new relationship in the relationship that you already have. You want to do that if you choose to stay. If you choose to stay, make sure the decision to stay is for you and not for the sake of other people. A lot of people stay in their relationships because of kids, because of wealth, because of family. I'm going to tell you this. If you make the decision to stay for any reason other than, you know what, God, this is what I want to do and I want you to help me through this. If you make the decision to stay for any other reason, if you make the decision to stay because of kids, because of wealth, money, or family, you're going to be miserable. Because deep down, you're not staying for the right reasons. Deep down, you're not staying because I truly love my wife or I truly love my husband. So I'm going to stick this out and we're going to get the help that we need so we can get through this because we're going to work through this together. If you're staying because you're being manipulative, if you're staying because we're going to hit this, I'm going to hit this 7-year mark so I can get X, Y, and Z. If you're staying because of the kids, if you're staying because of money and wealth and all that, you're going to be miserable. You're going to be miserable. So if you choose to stay, make sure you're staying for the right reasons. Who cares what everybody else thinks if you decide to stay? You got to know in your heart the reason why you're staying. There are a lot of people who've gone through situations where their husband or their wives may have cheated or there have been some type of infidelity, whether emotional or physical, and they choose to stay. There's nothing wrong with that. The choice is yours. But if you choose to stay, you have to create boundaries. You got to begin to rebuild the relationship. You got to work together to have the relationship that you want. You got to make sure that you're staying for the right reasons. And you got to know that forgiveness plays a part should you choose to stay. So what do you need to do in order to get everything started? Let's say infidelity is going on in your relationship right now and you just found out about it. Or infidelity hit your relationship maybe last year, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. You're still kind of struggling with some things. One of the first things, and I said this earlier, seek counseling. Because sometimes we think we over stuff and we're really not over anything. Seek counseling. And then in the relationship, there has to be an expression of remorse. Has to be. There has to be a confession, which means the person who was the cheater, you got to come clean. You got to be upfront and honest. Yes, he gonna be hurt. Yes, she gonna be hurt. But you got to come clean. You got to be upfront and honest. So expression of remorse, a confession, and there has to be a commitment to honesty. If you cheated and your wife or your husband said, okay, we're going to stick this out. Okay, from that day forward, you got to be honest about everything. Everything. If you say you're going to Walmart, go to Walmart. Don't go to the mall. because you got to remember you're rebuilding. You're rebuilding, so you got to be on point with everything. And then there has to be transparency in that. Be real, be open. And then there has to be proof that the cheating is over. Yes, there has to be proof. It's hard, but you know what? It has to happen. Because having proof that the cheating is over helps to reestablish trust. So it is definitely a process that you have to go through when infidelity has hit your relationship. It is definitely a long process. It's not impossible to recover, but the question becomes, are you willing to go through the process to recover from the infidelity? Are you open to doing things different? Are you open to the process that you have to go through? And then 3 other things that you want to do. You have to be able to understand what went wrong. And that comes with communication. Sitting down and talking to each other about what went wrong in the relationship. And be upfront and honest. Don't take it personal when your mate begins to talk about how he or she feels, or how he or she has felt in the past, or how he or she felt in that moment. You got to be open. You got to be ready. You got to be prepared to hear how your mate feels. You got to be prepared to hear what went wrong in the relationship. And then you want to talk to each other about why the relationship should be rebuilt. Why should you continue to stay? And then the last thing you want to go through is forgiveness. I think I talked about forgiveness a lot. So I wanted to talk to you all today about when infidelity hits your relationship. It's not impossible to recover from infidelity. It's really about if you're willing to go through the process. If you're willing to walk together to deal with the emotions, the reasons why, to deal with all the things that happen. If you're willing to work together, you can recover from it. But as you see, it's not an easy process. It is probably one of the most difficult things to walk through in your relationship. But it's not impossible for you to walk through together. And so I want to leave you with this. If you have any questions or any concerns, you may give me a call at 972-855-8947. You may also visit my website at www.drlne.com. This has been Dr. LaWanda N. Evans with another segment of The Truth About Your Relationship. I hope there was something that I said that really helped you. If it did, I would love to hear from you. You can email me at counseling@drlne.com, or you can visit my website and send me a message there. I look forward to coming to you every Tuesday with the truth about your relationship, and every Tuesday will be a different topic. So see you next week at 12 noon next week for real, because I won't be driving. But see you next week at 12 noon for my next segment of The Truth About Your Relationship. Thank you so much and have a great day. Bye-bye.